very much, everyone. I'm going to talk about my experience using Make, or formerly Integromat, in a business operations team at Onto. And my background is in operations, customer operations, and leadership. And really, my focus of the last kind of 10 years has been on building the glue to solve customer and operations problems. I'm going to give a little break in the middle for questions. May not be many, but I'll check. And then again at the end, but if you have a burning question, just like raise your hand and I'm happy to answer. Hopefully I'll go into enough detail so you get a grasp of what Make provides and what we've done with it. But if you want to grab me afterwards, then please do. Right, so Onto, what is it? Onto is an electric car subscription, but it's not like Zipcar. So you don't use it for an hour and then give it back. Think it's like your own car, it's an alternative form of car ownership. So you can put your baby seat in the back and you can use it for as little as 1 month and as much as kind of 2-3 years, and you can switch cars. And it offers loads of flexibility to customers and the chance to see what it's like to drive electric. And so here's an example car. It costs 500 and something quid a month, and we also bundle in all of those services you need. So insurance, servicing and repair. Even there's a charging option included, so that includes some charging networks that mean you can get free charging, and that includes fair wear and tear. Right? No, not damage, which we're going to talk about today, but fair wear and tear. And we work with we're a tech business really, and we work with a number of suppliers, automotive companies who will turn around and repair those vehicles at the end of life. So when you return your vehicle or switch, we're going to rely on a number of different companies, third parties to deal with that vehicle. And the thing I want you to hold on to is that we're managing a customer who's a subscriber and an asset, the car. And those things aren't always joined up, or at least the automotive industry didn't really have a concept of a customer. It only had a concept of a car. As I said, some charges are not included. I swim every Friday morning in Hampstead. I drive from West London, and this is the junction at which I had a crash. There was a lot more traffic than in this screenshot. And I did the honourable thing and made room for another car to come out here and reverse into a van. And fortunately, I caused minimal damage, but I'm going to pay at the end, basically the end of the subscription. When the car goes back, that's when I'm going to pay. And so that's damage exceeding fair wear and tear. But other ad hoc charges include accidents, excess mileage, so if you drive more than however many miles per month, and PCNs, so for if you park in the wrong place and the council fines you, we don't pay that fine, you pay the fine. And so at the end of life, we authorize and pay for those repairs, and then we try to recover the spend from the customers who owe us the money. And before Make, that process was a mess. We were working with 3 different suppliers who provided 3 different types of data. Each vehicle that had damage on that was customer attributable took about 45 minutes of pure admin to manage. I don't mean kind of value add admin where people who know things about cars decide what is damage and what isn't. That's real insight and work. I'm talking copying data from one place to another, or other calculations, or trying to scratch your head to work out what a customer should be charged. And customers it was taking about 20 days on average to notify customers. We had a 30-day regulated deadline to get that information to the customer, so 20 days is not great and risked us not even being able to charge that customer at all. And our recovery rate on a spend of about 200K a month was about 20%, so very, very low. And I'll highlight now that in other businesses that I've been part of, fruit doesn't always hang this low. But it really was when I arrived a year ago. And I'd never heard of Make a year ago. But I was introduced, and within 3 weeks, we were a customer. And then within 2 months, we'd rolled out what I'm about to show you. So the building blocks of this invoicing process for an ad hoc invoice was to create a ticket saying this customer needs to be charged this amount for this damage, and then we're going to email them, which was being done manually. But we decided that an automation slice was to build a Zendesk ticket, exactly as was being done before, but enriched with more data. Send that information to customer IO, an email pipe and tool that provides logic to deliver emails in an intelligent way, and then Stripe for invoicing. I'm sure you've come across these tools before. And it's really, all of these are sensitive, right? So if the information is accurate, that's important because you want to charge the right amount. You want to communicate that in a timely and sensitive way to the customer, and then finally charge them in the correct way. So our job was to link the car to the customer, inform them, and recover that spend. And this remains 10 months later the building blocks of this process. Excuse me. But we've also built a bunch of additional layers that help us to manage this process. So I'm going to give you a quick example of how we actually create the ticket. This is just the first slice, so I'm not going to go into all of them because it would be too much detail. But here on the left-hand side, we're arranging the data. So every damage instance has multiple lines of damage per car. So it's not just one simple cost. There are several columns that influence what the customer should be charged and whether it is attributable or not attributable. And so that data needs to be worked, and this is where it's being worked. And then we're matching the car here to the customer, then creating a ticket, and then finally adding some value by creating a log and matching with historical tickets that may be of relevance to this instance and may cause the customers to dispute, for example. And we're filling about 30 fields in this Zendesk ticket, so it takes us no time, but it used to take a lot of time to do that. And with this base information, the team then can check the evidence. So this is the value add piece where the guys who know about cars, or the people in the team who know about cars, can check whether this customer really is attributable and whether there's evidence to support the claim. We're then sending an HTML enriched email notification. My colleague Laura actually created this table in my team, and she received this damage notification yesterday from the company. So she's been done by her own work, which she was pretty pissed off about. And then finally, we can enrich the ticket because the customer service team don't actually see that email that goes out blindly, right, by an email agent. So the ticket provides the context on what the customer's actually received. And then for Stripe, I don't know if you've come across this or looked at the documentation of Stripe, but it has a number of predetermined steps. You've got to build an invoice, then add a bunch of line items into it, kind of say you want to actually charge the customer and then charge them. And so you replicate those within Make. If I just run back, actually, Make is really, I think of it like a transformer. It's about transforming data, borrowing other bits of data from other places, and then finally spitting out a result. And that may be in another tool, or it may be in the original tool, but enriched with data you've picked up along the way. Each of those circles is a module, and once you've set up a connection, so Zendesk, for example, you add credentials, you want administrative credentials rather than your own ones, then you're going to perform a series of actions. One might be create a ticket, and that all happens via API. Make controls those API through out-of-the-box integrations, and you can also do custom ones yourself. If you look up the documentation on how an API works, you can then build your own circle and interact with your database, for example. And that means you can do lots of kind of cool things. And then data packets get sent down from the left to right. And if something makes down to the end, it means usually the output has been generated. So for example, with the multiple damage line items, we're grouping those by registration so that only gets treated as one event rather than charged 8 times. I'm going to show you the impact we had. We took about a month to scope it out and get a stakeholder buy-in, and then we spent a month building. And then released it. There was some internal resistance early, people adopting new systems, there always is going to be. And I felt like the quicker we went, the more likely we were going to be able to overcome that resistance, rather than listening to every grumble. Always find a champion and then just rely on them. And we reduced the manual workload by 500 hours a month, which was, 2.5 people's work, and that meant that they could do a lot more interesting things. We reduced the time to notify the customer by half, and recovered about 45k a month more. So we think the net benefit is about somewhere between 500 and 800k of EBITDA a year. And this is a month of build. And what's great about that process is that if we scaled to a higher fleet volume or a lower fleet volume, this process can go up and down without having to hire more people or fire people if there's fewer. That we saw that as a real positive. And people started to love it. I'm going to share now 3 insights. So that's the case study. I'm now going to share 3 insights about what it was like to work with Make and what's worked best for us. Like where have we generated the most value for the business? It's just going to be simple illustrations and a little story. So the first insight is that it's not just about the speed of the automation itself that's exciting. It's about the speed of learning. Or for us, it's been about the speed of learning. So one example is we charge customers automatically after 7 days of informing them that they're going to be facing this bill, which they don't like. But what customers like even less is money being taken out of their account, or some customers really don't like money being taken out of their account, even if they owe it. So we saw this feedback and we thought, okay, well, we can't change the way we bill everything, but we can provide an experiment that offers the ability for people to actually actively pay, so to pay now, which for us was counterintuitive because it was 7 days. It was going to happen immediately rather than in 7 days. It's bad for cash flow for the customer, but some people just want to know what money's going out of their bank and when. And so, without bothering the tech folks at Onto, we built an experiment that mimicked paying now. It was just a button in the email that said "Pay now," and then an automation in Make that ran every couple of hours and then charged the customer that amount. We had a 20% take-up rate for that Pay Now button, which we thought was pretty high. And that meant a better cash flow for us, fewer disputes, and better sentiment for customers. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that before putting something on the backlog for your core tech infrastructure, no and low-code tools allow you to rapidly validate or invalidate your hypothesis. And then your speed of learning increases, which means you're getting it better and better. Second insight is that not all automations are born equal. So a dishwasher looks like a great automation, right? You put the dishes in and then get clean dishes afterwards, and you don't have to wash any up. But I don't think a dishwasher is actually that great in automation because you have to load it each time, and how well you load it really matters to how well dishes come out afterwards. And what I found the same with Make automations is that if you load bad data, like bad stuff happens. We had 3 different suppliers with 3 different types of data. So we took the time, and I think I would repeat this, to basically fight with our suppliers until they would provide the data exactly like we needed it. And even better is to get this straight from them via API. But a lot of these automotive companies don't know what an API is. So you have to deal with what you've got. If you can get a data dump, that works nicely. Do not copy and paste. Don't ask anyone to copy and paste in your team. Things will go wrong immediately. So all the team are doing manually is just replacing the spreadsheet from a data dump each day, which is pretty straightforward. I think rethinking every step, and especially those early ones, otherwise you end up with dirty dishes. And then the third insight is from Aladdin. It's that Make is a great way of creating timely, actionable insights. Aladdin, in this story, Aladdin has become Prince Ali through the genie's magic, and he's trying to impress Princess Jasmine as he waltzes in on like a huge parade of elephants, but he's too brash. And then Genie intervenes just the right time as a bee, in this case, issuing a Mayday call, Mayday, Mayday, and says, just be yourself. And love is restored, and he shows her the world on his magic carpet. And my point that I'm making here is that people do build amazing dashboards, and I love dashboards. But in my experience, senior people look at dashboards and no one else looks at dashboards. And so the senior people get a false sense of control where chaos is actually happening. All the data's there, and yet the expected result isn't happening. Whereas what Make can do is you can stitch together information from different platforms that's happening right now and ask questions. Think of what the question is, produce an alert that goes to the right person at the right time with the right context, more than any one person could be bothered to collate, and prompts the correction. And we found that amazingly helpful. And those are the kind of layers that I've talked about that we built on top of the core modules. That's it.